You should have told me sooner. I wouldn't have wasted my best years on a dying man. That's what she said, not in anger, not even in tears. Just cold, calculated disappointment. Like I'd ruined her weekend plans by surviving too long. My name's Daniel Whitaker. I'm 41. I run a family-owned bicycle repair shop in Durango, Colorado. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work. The kind of work where grease finds its way under your fingernails. And customers know you by name, not by Yelp stars. I was married to Elise for 9 years. She was a marketing manager for a high-end lifestyle brand. Picture beige aesthetic, overpriced scented candles, and Instagram captions about intentional living. We were opposites, but for a long time, that worked. Or at least, I thought it did, until I was diagnosed with testicular cancer. Stage 2B. Not the worst, not the best. Curable with aggressive treatment. The kind of diagnosis that makes your whole world narrow into a blur of white walls, doctor voices, and numbers that sound more like betting odds and survival rates. I told Elise. The day I found out, we were sitting on the porch. She had her wine, I had my water, and the sun was dipping low behind the mountains. Dan, I can't handle this, she whispered. I'm not asking you to. I'd said, just don't run. She nodded, said she just needed a little space. To think, I thought that meant a drive to clear her head, maybe staying with her sister for a few days. I didn't think it meant emptying our savings account and leaving her wedding band on the kitchen table. I found both of those things, bank balance and ring, the next morning, along with a note written on the back of one of my shop invoices. I didn't sign up for this kind of life. No apology, no explanation, just a $38,000 hole in our joint account, and silence. That day, I still went to the bike shop. I unlocked the door, flipped the open sign, and repaired Mrs. Latham's grandson's BMX. Like it wasn't the worst day of my life. Because what else was I supposed to do? Cry? Beg? Call her? No. I tightened the bolts, adjusted the brakes, and told the kid to wear a helmet. The cancer, I could face that. I could even face the uncertainty, the fatigue, the nausea, but being abandoned in the middle of the storm, that broke something deeper. I went home to an empty house, sat in our backyard, where we used to barbecue on Sundays, and just stared at the sky. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I wasn't even sad. Mostly, I was just stunned, not at the diagnosis, but at the person I'd been sleeping beside for almost a decade, and how I'd never really seen her. The hardest part wasn't the silence. It was a routine. The toothbrush that never moved from its spot, the wine glass left unwashed in the sink, the faint imprint of her side of the bed still fresh, like she'd just gotten up and would be back before morning. But she didn't come back. Not that day. Not the day after. Not ever. I didn't tell anyone. Not right away. Not about the cancer. Not about Elise. Not even my mom, who still called every Sunday asking if we'd made it to church. I kept showing up at the shop, fixing chains, changing tires, pretending that the nausea was just something I ate, and the bags under my eyes were from late-night Netflix instead of 3 rounds of chemo. Chemo was hell. I won't sugarcoat it. The kind of tired that doesn't go away with sleep, the metallic taste that ruined every bite of food, the way your body betrays you, hair falling out in clumps, skin bruising if you look at it wrong. But worse than all of it was coming home. Not to her absence. I'd learned to live with that. But to the note, still taped to the fridge, still mocking me with its 5 lazy words. I didn't sign up for this. As if life ever lets you sign a contract. As if anyone gets guarantees. I should have thrown it out, ripped it up, set it on fire. Instead, I read it every night. It reminded me, not of her, but of what people are capable of when love is tested. 3 weeks into treatment, my sister Laura showed up, uninvited, unapologetic. She found me on the floor of the shop bathroom, dry heaving into a trash can. "Jesus, Dan," she'd said, "you look like hell." "Feel like it too," I muttered. She took over from there, started organizing my appointments, cooking real food, making me laugh, even when I didn't think I could anymore. She didn't ask where Elise went, didn't need to. One afternoon, I caught her in the garage, holding the wedding photo from our mantle. She didn't say anything, just set it down, face down, and walked away. That said more than any question ever could. The shop stayed open, somehow, between Laura and my apprentice Jesse, a lanky 19-year-old with a good heart and zero time management. We kept the gears turning. Word got around. Durango's not a big town. People started dropping by with casseroles, homemade juice, bike parts one didn't ask for. One guy, I barely knew him, brought in an old Schwinn and paid me in full up front, then told me to fix it whenever I had the energy. He winked and said, "Some things are worth waiting for." That stuck with me. I started writing again, just little things at first. Thoughts, fragments. One night, I wrote a single sentence. "I am still here." It didn't feel brave. It didn't even feel like a victory, but it felt real. I started to heal, but not just physically. There was something about being emptied out, emotionally, financially, even hormonally, that made space for other things. Clarity, maybe, or just the brutal honesty of facing everything alone and surviving it. By month 3, my hair was gone. My eyebrows too. I looked like a ghost of myself, but I was still pedaling, still showing up. Some nights I'd lock the shop early and just sit out front, watching the traffic drift by like I was waiting for something I didn't know how to name. It wasn't Elise. Not anymore. What I missed, what I ached for, was the man I used to be before cancer, before betrayal, before life taught me how easily things fall apart. But slowly, so slowly I almost didn't notice, people started stepping in. Mrs. Jensen brought her dog-eared mystery novels for me to borrow. A middle schooler named Cody stopped by every Tuesday just to ask how I was doing, then stayed to sweep the floors without being asked. Laura, she just kept showing up. When I told her about the money Elise took, she didn't flinch, didn't pity me. She just said, "Well, good thing you got more than money." I rolled my eyes at the time. But later that night, lying in bed with my bones aching from treatment, I realized she was right. The shop was still standing. My name was still on the door. And my hands, though weaker, still remembered how to build, how to mend. So I did what I knew. I started rebuilding. Not out of revenge. Not to prove anything to Elise or anyone else. But because it's who I am. A fixer. A man who patches tubes, straightens bent wheels, tightens what's come loose. And so, I fixed myself piece by piece. First, my finances. I got help from a lawyer friend of Laura's, pro bono. She helped me file paperwork Elise should have signed years ago. I removed her name from everything, shop accounts, backup credit lines, health proxy rights. It was like undoing a knot. Tight, messy, but necessary. Then, I focus on the shop. We partner with a local trail group to offer free repairs to kids who couldn't afford gear. I designed a loyalty card, taught Jesse how to true a wheel without warping the frame. For the first time in a long time, I felt steady, still tired, still sick on some days, but steady. Then one evening, late September, I checked my mail, and there was an envelope, no return address. Inside a card, cream-colored, heavy stock, a wedding invitation. Elise getting remarried to someone named Brian. Finance, Denver. I stared at it for a long time, not because I cared, but because of the note she'd scribbled on the back. "I hope you're well. I always cared about you. I just couldn't handle everything. Everything. Like I was a storm instead of a man." I didn't cry, didn't rage. I just folded the card in half and dropped it in the recycling bin. Then I turned out the lights and went to bed. For once, I slept without dreaming of her. A few weeks after tossing that invitation, I got a call from a name I hadn't seen in years. Rick Moreland, one of my old college buddies. We lost touch, jobs, families, life. But he sounded exactly the same. Dan, he said, I've been following what you've done with the shop, the community stuff, the trail work. I've got something I want to run by you. Turns out, Rick had landed a senior role at a company that designed custom touring bikes, high-end hand-built, sustainable frame materials. They were looking to expand into retail partnerships. And they needed someone to anchor a flagship service shop in Rockies. They needed someone they could trust. I laughed at first. You want me? He said, No, I need you. 3 weeks later, he flew out. We had lunch at a food truck in downtown Durango. I showed him around the shop, told him where the roof leaked when it rained, how the walls smelled like WD-40 and pine. He didn't blink. This is exactly what we need, he said. Authentic, grounded, real. We inked a deal in November. I kept the name Whitaker Cycles. But now, it came with a co-sign from one of the most respected boutique brands in the country. We got new tools, inventory support, training workshops for local teens who wanted to learn the trade. It felt like vindication, but not the kind that makes headlines. The quiet kind, the kind that shows up when you open the door, and there's a line of people waiting because they trust you. A week after the partnership launched, Elise walked into the shop. She looked thinner, tired, wearing designer sunglasses inside like armor. I was at the back, fitting a tire. She stood there for a minute, then cleared her throat. Dan, can we talk? I stood, wiped my hands, and nodded toward the bench by the counter. She sat, crossed her legs, didn't take off the glasses. I saw the news, she said. The partnership, the bikes. Congratulations. Thanks, I said. Silence. Then she took a breath. I know I don't deserve it, but I wanted to say I'm sorry. I didn't answer. She continued, What I did, I was scared. I thought I was losing everything, and I didn't want to drown with you. I leaned against the counter, looked at her, really looked, and said, You didn't drown, Elise. You left before the water even rose. She flinched just a little. Then she stood up, brushed imaginary dust off her coat. Well, she said, You've done well without me. I did okay, I said, because I stopped waiting for someone else to save me. She turned to leave. At the door, she hesitated. Dan, I loved you. I just couldn't be what you needed. I nodded once. I know. And then she was gone. For good, this time. No note, no stolen money, no wedding ring on the table. Just the soft chime of the shop door, closing behind her, and it didn't hurt anymore. Spring came late that year. The mountain still held snow in May, but the valley was blooming. One morning, I unlocked the shop early. The air was crisp. Sky, that pale, endless blue you only get at altitude. I stood there just breathing, listening to the town wake up. And for the first time in a long time, there was peace. Not because everything was perfect, but because I'd stopped chasing something that was never mine to begin with. The cancer went into remission last fall. Doctors say my numbers are steady. I still go in every few months for blood work. Still get tired on the bad days. But I'm alive, and that's enough. The shop's doing better than ever. Rick calls once a week. We're planning a youth trail ride in June. 20 miles, full gear support, kids who've never left the county before. Last week, a boy named Aiden brought in a busted derailleur. He couldn't have been more than 11. He stood quiet while I showed him how to fix it. Then, when we were done, he looked up and said, Mr. Whitaker, when I grow up, I want to be like you. And I almost cried. Not because I'm special, but because somewhere along the way, I became someone worth looking up to. Funny how that happens. When you stop trying to prove your worth to people who walked away. On Sundays, I ride up to Onimus Overlook. It's quiet up there. Just me, the trees, the wind. Sometimes I bring a thermos of coffee. Sometimes I bring a book I never open. Last Sunday, I brought the ring. The wedding band Elise had left on the table. I held it for a while, ran my thumb along the inside. Then I buried it under a flat stone beneath the biggest pine on the ridge, not out of anger, but as a marker for where that part of my life ended and something new began. And when I stood, I felt lighter, not because I'd won, not because she'd lost, but because I'd rebuilt something better. Me,